age, and over the last century, we have destroyed our wetland. So, today on this day, let us take a pledge to protect our earth, its mountains, rivers, sky, soil, one planet irreplaceable to be conserved and protected by all. Today we have an amongst personality, Dr. Swapnil Sheth sir, who is an environmentalist, and he will guide us on biodiversity and biodiversity hotspot. Welcome, sir. I take this opportunity to introduce our guest, Dr. Swapnil Sheth sir. He has 15 years experience as visiting lecturer in 15 different colleges. He has done his PhD from MUHS Interdisciplinary, MSc Environment Science and MBA Environmental Science. He has completed Diploma in Environmental Management BSc Chemistry from Mumbai University. He has international and national publications, and he also published some good research articles and research papers. I'd now request sir to please guide us.
Thank you. Yes, respected Registrar Madam, Principal Madam, and all my dear teachers, friends, and students. First of all, I will congratulate you people for having such faculty, such management, and such decision makers who are ready to give you that hand-on experience which is required for the sake called as environmental conservation, environmental protection, our own contribution, our own role as per this particular surrounding is concerned, this particular environment is concerned. And then we all know it is not only a one man's work, it is a teamwork. Every now and then we require those resources from the nature. And in return of that, what we are giving back to nature, this is what...
Sir, your voice is so low.
Just a minute. My volume levels are, and everything are at the most I have make. So is it okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you properly.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are assuming this our surrounding, this our environment is a gene bank, or in our terms it is a bank, and that is why we always think for this one factor that this is interaction between biotic and abiotic factor, a human system and ecosystem. So we always are saying that so lots of things are happening in the nature. We are trying to overcome with the situation, but always nature teaches various lessons, and through which many times we are deciding.
Sir, you're not audible.
Hello?
Rohit, he is audible to us. Archana ma'am, is he audible to
Yes,
you?
sir, you are audible. There is some problem
Yes,
on your
ma'am,
side.
he is audible.
Yes,
Yes, he is
audible,
audible.
sir.
From your side, sir is audible. Problem from your side. You check your connections, please. Okay.
Okay, Rohit, try to make your arrangement. Otherwise, we'll just continue. So I just was mentioning to you about every time we are deciding after some of the incidences, some of the accidents, some of the natural disasters, that we are going to make something from our side, but eventually we are forgetting all our commitments, all our activities, all our attitudinal changes, and then again situation come back to the same square. So when we looking upon these two factors together, that one is natural ecosystems and another is socio-scientific human system. So basically our interest lines are economics, politics, and our social upliftment and upgradation. And as far as nature is concerned, they are continuously busy in their change, in their matter recycling, and giving lots of sources of energy and resources that per second we are going to breathe. So in this corona pandemics also, that same lesson nature has given to us, that whatever the precautions need to be taken, whatever the arrangements need to be done, so as per the ecosystem, as per the local geographical and climatic conditions, what we need to do, because every seasonal change is always alarming you that you need to make certain changes within yourself for the new change to come. Same thing lies to the ecosystem, same thing lies to the human being. So on this particular note, it is definitely a particular thing that we try to understand is we are one of the stakeholder. Not we are owning the entire thing together, but we are part of the system. So we must do our own rules and regulations and our work in that particular manner that particular ecosystem or surrounding requires. And that is why our country is in particular is known as a mega diversity nation, and that diversity lies in various aspects. One single benchmark within our country is we travel just 200 kilometers from one place to other place in our country. Then we find there is diversity in language, diversity in food, diversity in crop, diversity in water holding capacity, color of the soil, temperature, language, food cooking style, marriage style, everything changes. And this is because of that diversified conditions what we have in our country. So this is one of such a unique example in the world, and we are fortunate enough that we are trustees of this country. The trustee in the sense, yes, we are son or daughter for somebody, we are brother or sister for somebody, we are husband or wife for somebody, but our job is whatever our ancestors has given it to us, we need to preserve it, we need to continue it and pass it to the next generation to come, our successors, our followers to come. So this is how this complex system is there. There will be change is constant. Somebody who is going to take birth on this planet, he will consume the resource, then he will do his reproduction, and then finally he is having this back journey into the nature. So whenever we want to live in this planet, or we want to going away from this planet, we require these environmental resources, and that is all being controlled by different diversified factors present around. So that is why most of the socio-environmental problems having those multidimensional aspect attached to it, and that is why any one small change in the environment will be responsible for many other different aspects, and that contributes to the overall impact. So environmental consideration always needs expertise from various disciplines, and that is why we always say it is a multidimensional thing, and it is a diversified subject where experts from all the faculties will come together, and then they will put their contributions so that the impact level will be minimum and the overall 360 degrees thought process will be initiated. Because whatever we want to do, that solution should be long term, it should be holistic, it should be affordable, and again important thing is not going to the harm to the local climatic conditions, local ecosystems and all those aspects, so that we will be considering it for a longer term. That means nowadays it is a famous stuff, that is approach which will able to sustain you. So that means a sustainable approach, sustainable thought process, sustainable use of resources, and we need to stick to this particular fact. First of all, we need to understand the value for our nature, we need to understand what it gives to us, and we need to have what option we have for controlling that particular conditions, for preserving that particular conditions. And that is why in our country, I must say to all of you that that feeling of nationalism is lost, because we're stuck in boundaries of states, language, political parties, and different thought process and socio-economic classes. So these all factors, as I mentioned in the first slide, the human system and natural system. So because of all these interests, we are stuck into the various issues, and then finally we are not understanding that what is the name of my country, because till after 70 years of our independence, we are still not able to give one fixed name to our country. In Marathi, we are calling as Bharat. Hindi, we can calling it as a Hindustan. In English, we are calling it as India. Your own name in any language will be the same. There will be no translation to it. So what I mean to say here is, it is not always necessary for everybody to take gun and stand on the boundary and show their patriotism or nationalism. Not necessary. If you are saving one glass of water per day in the inner side of our country, you are also equally that particular cadre of soldier, because they are protecting us by standing there. So we need to protect their resources, because their families and when they come back from the border, they need their resource, they need their house, and they need their facilities. So we both are having that particular aspect in our hand, that how we can help our motherland. So that is why whatever be your profession, whatever be your work, whatever be your business, whatever be your socio-economic class, you are soldier in this moment of saving this particular environment, because in this bank of environment, we are always depositing toxic gases, toxic material, wastewater, and all other things that are really not suited to our environment. And so that is why whenever we are terming that our country is a mega diversity nation, so that diversity, to understand this diversity, we need to understand some of the things called as ecology, ecosystem, species, population, community, biosphere, and biogeographic zones. So that will give us that clear understanding, clear insight that how this particular term in the broad category of environment or surrounding can be understood, can be related to each other, and how we take our claim in the entire world for having this diversified situation in plants, animals, vertebrates, invertebrates, birds, reptiles, then different types of ecosystem and those biogeographic zones. Because another uniqueness that we have is, in the entire world, one of the metropolitan cities having a national park of 100 square kilometers. Unique example for our country, and that is Mumbai, SGNP, that is Sanjay Gandhi National Park, Borivali. In 2000, I prepared their environmental management plan. That time I was working with one of the consultants in Mumbai. So what I mean to say here is, so these particular aspects will be the triggering points for all of us, because we don't have that unique climatic condition in our country, that biogeographic zones are itself explaining all those facts together, that somewhere it is raining, somewhere it is coastal area, somewhere it is desert, somewhere it is wetland, somewhere it is highly raining, somewhere it is flooded, in some areas absolutely no rainfall. And these are the simultaneous situations. We always try to understand what is this diversity is. So if you can understand, one single drug for one single disease will be not fixed in the entire states of our country, because those local climatic condition and diversified aspects will decide the metabolism, food and temperature and water quality and everything to that particular area. And that is why this diversified country always asks us that this diversity should be protected, because if otherwise, there are suppose different types of deer in our country, there are 7 types of deer. If that Himalayan deer called as hangul, if there is some problem to that hangul species of deer in those Himalayan region, then can we create an artificial ecosystem of that Himalayan anywhere in our country? Forget those decorations being done in the Ganpati festivals and other occasions. But that is why survival of the fittest, and those specificity will give that particular condition called as ecosystem. So this ecosystem aspects is also important as far as this biodiversity concept is concerned. That is why we have done many attempts to insert the lion in many of the national parks, but till date we have not got that success, because that deer is only available in Gujarat forest. The lions are only available in Gujarat state. So that is why that particular ecosystem, that particular habitat, that particular biodiversity aspects are there, which cannot be matched to any other part of any other land in our country. So that is how these biodiversity are really important as far as these ecosystems and their services is also important. So this is why one factor is attached to the another factor, and these ecosystem conditions, ecosystem services give that opportunity for a diversified species, diversified the genetic disorders and everything. And that is why this ecology and ecosystem and species and population we need to understand, because based on this our entire biodiversity studies or entire biodiversity understanding, or those who want to work directly or indirectly for betterment of the environmental situations, conditions in any form, also by suppose he will be a funder, he will be an implementer agencies, he will be writing research proposals, or exactly he is going to work directly on the field. So this is all conditions are there. So we need to go with these situations. That is why population of one living organism, one species, entire ecosystem, that how that fundamental unit of ecology includes biotic and abiotic factors coming together, and then it gives that particular systems. So this is how this biodiversity aspects we need to understand. So as far as this term biodiversity is concerned, so there are genetic diversity, there is species diversity, there is ecosystem diversity, and these are the things which are always important and crucial factors as far as we are terming a total condition called as biodiversity, because this genetical disorder of the same species and different species are distributed in our entire country, and then ecosystem that is closely attached to those 10 biogeographic zones. So this is how this biodiversity concept or this biodiversity term can be well understood and when explained with these particular factors. So that is why how these conditions will evolve. So that is why origin of life is also to be understood, that how that progress was done. So 4 million years ago, that is how somewhat we able to categorize that when we actually started, because we need to have benchmark some of the aspects. So from that particular long period, this development has been started. There are many theories being put forward, maybe in the mythological way, maybe in the religious way, maybe in the scientific way, that how particular thing has been evolved as a system. But the thing is, at least 4 million years ago, this particular journey was started, and that was started through aquatic system. That means aquatic origin. That particular history and science is always helping us to understand that life evolved and gradually diversified, spread to land and air, and then it has in connection with the land and air. And that is why in that first slide also I showed biosphere. That means where there is air, there is water, there is soil. So that is why that life is possible there, so that it is being called as a biogeographic system or a biosphere. And that is why slowly the other factors of these 5 elements of nature will come into the picture. Their interaction has been started, and then different life forms came into existence. So bacteria and algae are the examples of primitive forms. So from that particular level, these life forms came into the picture, and then slowly these systems getting evolved. Only human being with his brain can able to think, can able to act, can able to protect, but all other wildlife, they stick to their original ways of living. And that is why we can see many of the animals are coming into that stage of extinction, of stage of critically endangered as far as those ecological categories are concerned, because they are not able to adapt the changing situation. And that is why the cheetah is extinct from India. Now just 2-3 days back, I have heard news that there was a cheetah seen in some of the forests. So if it is a true case, then we must congratulate ourselves only that we are at least trying to do something. But dinosaur is completely extinct from India, and there are many such species which are on the verge of extinction. But somehow we try to have those projects like Project Tiger and Project Vulture, and then we have able to increase their numbers by taking those tiger reserves, tiger projects, and those forest management aspects. So bacteria are the most numerous forms of life, genetic diversity and species diversity that we found everywhere. So there are n number of things. That is why in the ecosystem we always say the more number of life form present is nothing but decomposer, because we always say on one point of that needle there may be many these microorganisms or it can be viruses. Nowadays what we feeling in this particular case of corona, all our earlier diseases were heavily based on the bacteria, but this is a virus. Now there are again many theories being put forward that this is a deliberation act, or now some Russia has taken permission from their government, and they stated that after having dissection of those corona affected peoples, when they die, their bodies being allowed for a dissection in Russia, and they said that one kind of bacteria again was responsible for entire these operations, and that is why the blood levels get more thick, and then that have huge impact on the entire system, because that carboxyhemoglobin and other cases are concerned. So the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood and other things. So they are putting this history forward. But the final thing in a summary, that in the nature, every stage of life, every small fraction of life is important, and they should be have their right to spend their time, to spend their activity in this particular arena. So that is why we need to understand all different aspects being told to us right from our childhood, in the schools, by teachers, by science, in the schools, everywhere. That, and then all our mythological aspects and maybe religious aspects are also said, that Rukshavalli Ama Soyere Vanachere, that means we all are association with each other. So as far as human history we can consider in this biodiversity aspects is near about 3 million years of ago, and modern humans around 10 years ago. So these human tissue, cells and bacteria, then we are slowly moving towards all this aspect. So as far as to understand the biodiversity in this particular planet, so we need to understand right from all living factors, biotic and abiotic factors, when they combine together, and then their movements will be so-called facilitated, or they can be controlled, or they can be specified, confined to any particular region. So this is all complex phenomenon. So for our sake of understanding that, we must need to protect our resources. If that understanding also will keep in our mind, so we'll definitely protect our ecosystem, we definitely protect our landform, we definitely protect our diversified life forms. So India is a mega diversity nation. So as far as the biodiversity is concerned, genetic as well as species and ecosystem, so it contains over 7 to 8% of the world's biodiversity. By understanding the entire life forms together, later on we are going to see that chart. So by calculating everything together, by landmass, their presence and their species and their genetical order, so this is our 7 to 8% rank in the entire world. And on 2.5% of the Earth's surface, this diversity can be attributed to the vast variety of landforms and climates, resulting in the habitat ranging from tropical to temperate and from alpine to desert. So with this condition, what we have is India is estimated to have over 45,523, representing about 11.8% of the world's flora. This includes over 17,500 flowering plants, of which 4,950 species are endemic to the country, and 95,000 species of animals and 47,000 species of these plants that we are right now understanding. One thing is definitely sure, that British ruled on us over 150 years, and that was a real setback to all of us. Yes, they may modified system like post, railway and other thing, but all our research thing they have disturbed. So they made those education system where only people will try to learn something and sit in the office and do their clerical work. That is what the education system they initiated. Otherwise, they made various act like say Wildlife Act and other things. For example, whenever any wildlife dead in the forest area or anywhere, the law is saying that you need to burn it. But with the permission of say our central government or those research authorities or those controlling agencies, that body of those animals can be dissected and to learn how that function will work, because that hyena will able to live without water for a month. So how his kidney is working? If we are trying to do so, we may go to a dialysis. Then how the wolf can survive without that? Then how that tiger is consuming 250 kilogram of say deer, and if we compare the scat, it is only about say 50 to 80 grams or 100 grams, not more than that, and there is no cooking system, nothing. So how their metabolism works, if we can understand this. But now the patent for all these things with UK or US, because whenever they ruled us, they were their simple clerk in some office, he have some 10, 5, 15 research paper on their name. So that is why whenever we are writing many references, we are writing Jepson, Thomson, Cook, Jepson, Thomson, Cook. So why it is not Jedhe, More, Joshi, Bawalkar, Shastri, Shetty? Why not? Because that particular aspect we always need to understand is our country is giving that opportunity to us. Whatever Botanical Survey of India and Zoological Survey of India, they have their research, but that is mostly followed in those accessible areas. There are many inaccessible paths in our country where still research is required. And that is why always remember, if you are MLA, minister or MP also, after your tenure is over, hardly anybody will recognize you. You take example of Saddam Hussein was a dictator in Iraq. After his entire empire was demolished, he was killed. So his 300 feet iron statue was demolished. But if you try to invent one species of animal, one plant species, one insect species, then your enemy also will not able to remove your name, and everybody will remember your name, because whenever we see that scientific name, half of the name is of particular genera, species or whatever, and then half of the name is that person who has invented it. So always try to remember and try to focus. There are lots of opportunity for you people, and your institute is giving that opportunity to you. Don't waste your time in bunking the college and doing other things, but try to wasul whatever fee you are paying. Because I know at your student stage and other stages, on Sunday, whenever there is no mess, you people are going to some of the restaurant, unlimited food, and then you are trying to wasul that 250 rupees. So similar wasuli you need to do in your educational institutes. Ask your teachers, ask your coordinators, ask your people that we need some extra things, we need some extra practicals, we need some project work, we need this and that, we need to sit after the college, and we need to do some extra research work. They will always help you, they will always support you. So try to utilize these things together. So whenever we try to sing, say, genetic diversity or species diversity in that thing, so there are 7 types of bears in our country. Here I am mentioning 4 for you people, because of the time restriction and other things. And then with this, their presence in different areas with different landforms. So specifically these deer varieties are the grassland varieties, but this sambar can be found in the dense forest. So maybe, for example, if we go to Kanha National Park, the ecological ratio, if there are 100 tigers, then behind one tiger there is 150 to 200 deers. So how much deer family will be there in that forest, then how much grassland is needed. So this is how those biodiversity aspects will be controlled by those ecosystem conditions. I'm showing 2 types of, say, maybe a research macaque and Hanuman langur. So we find that in a history that we were evolved from this particular animal, as our ancestors can be various terms is been considered as a monkey. But if you go to the forest areas, then association of these different animals, though their habitat, though their characteristics, though their food are different, but whenever a tiger is approaching for a kill, that time a unique experience. Everybody need to visit these national parks and see this particular thing, a memorable experiences. After this corona situation is over, you may get try, and every year we are going to do that, because we always assume that 30-40 sessions, classroom session is equal to 1 or 2 field sessions, because that time you will really take those exposures from the nature. So whenever one thing in your mind you always mark, whenever you are going to forest area, you are looking at forest with your 2 eyes, but forest is looking towards you with maybe thousands of eyes, because all those living creatures are observing you, because your intrusion in their life will be a matter to them. So as far as angiosperms are there, so on the left hand side you can see one of the insectivorous plant known as Drosera. So whenever any insect sits on this particular plant, it will squeeze and grab that insect as a food, because that secretions help or allows that plants to do. One more, this thing we can see, it is known as Gauri flower in the Ganesh festival. This particular flower, it is highly endangered variety of flower, only have in those high rainfall areas and higher elevations. So only that point of time it will come, and then maybe some farmers or some tribals will pluck it, and then it will bring to the our doorstep for to have in the worship of maybe Ganpati and Ganesh Pujan. So this is just I'm showing you of the few glimpses of this biodiversity. There are various types of insects that we can see. These insects are excellent pollinators, and their attachment to the grassland ecosystem and other things are also creating lots of impact. So there is also a tremendous variety in the insects, and every seasonal aspects are changes. These are happening with them, and their survival also is depending upon this seasonal pattern. So these termites, so this indicates a healthy nature of the particular forest ecosystem. So this particular termites, like iceberg, it has 1/3 more in the soil as we see on particular grounds, and it has shown the excellent teamwork and also those cooling effect and whatever ventilations required naturally for those ants and other living creatures. So that is one also unique example that how that habitats will be created to maintain these aspects. So this is one moth. So always moth is spreading his wings. So this is one of the moth in category of this Atlas moth, and this can be seen in the various patches of Western Ghat. And then various varieties of butterflies, they always close their wings. So these are the two distinct characteristics or differences into them whenever we are talking about those genetically and other species diversity is concerned. So for our sake, this is important that yes, these particular things we can see in different ecosystem, different association of things. So those should be looked upon. So this particular animal is known as a giant squirrel, that is Shekuru, which is a state animal of Maharashtra. And for this particular animal, there is one reserved sanctuary known as Bhimashankar Wildlife Sanctuary close to Pune, near about 90 to 100 kilometers. It is also a religious place that out of Para 12 Jyotirlings. This is one of the thing. And then this particular area is also reserved as a protected area under that wildlife sanctuary. So near about 533 wildlife sanctuaries are present in our country. So that also we'll see those are maintaining these particular gene pools in our country. This the speciality of this particular squirrel is it can actually fly, means it jump is to a longer area. So that is why it is also known as a flying squirrel. It is having multiple colors as compared to a normal squirrel that we see at our doorstep. It is having only one or two colors. So that is what the difference between this. So this is also one of the high productive value as far as fish and food is concerned. So after agriculture in our country, the second largest source of income through this aquatic support and these fish varieties. So these aquatic creatures also, we have this long coastal ecosystem through which we are maintaining, plus this fresh water in terms of rivers, ponds, lakes, wetlands and other things. So this particular variety is also being seen as those biodiversity things. This is particularly a wetland ecosystem where these snails being found. So after the drop of water being reached to the different stages, these areas being exposed, and then the various migratory birds are present there. This is a picture from Bhigwan Way to Temburni towards Solapur side. So that is an excellent wetland ecosystem, because I have studied one project known as Inland Wetlands of India, and I was coordinating that project for national level. And then we have prioritized from our state these three wetlands. One is this Bhigwan, which was once notified as a sanctuary in some 83-84. Another wetland is Nandur Madneshwar in Nashik, and third is Jayakwadi Bird Sanctuary. So these three are aquatic and wetland sanctuaries. So because of their total studies, so we have studied their soil quality, their water quality, the bird visiting that area, the water being used for various purposes, socioeconomic aspects, and then the rainfall pattern. Everything together was considered to have those prioritized wetland for our Maharashtra state, and then those wetland advisory boards and other things, they are taking care of all these things. So what I mean to say is, we have those potential in our country, in our state, so enormous opportunities there. So this is also a snail shells. So this Amphibia. So now after maybe another 15 days of time, you all people will see that now there is a time for them to come on the surface and show their existence, because this is typically a sign of the monsoon season. So there are various these amphibians. So in that category also we are 5th to 6th rank in the entire world. So that also been a fabulous thing for us, and they are representing various ecosystems, and they will adjust to both kind of ecosystems together. Aquatic insects. So whenever you are moving from the forest area, and if you find some aquatic insect floating in the surface of the water, then can you drink that water? So without fail you can drink that water, because if that insect can survive, then you will be able to survive. There is absolutely no movement and water is absolutely still. So always take care to and think 1,000 times to drink that water, because these insects, that means there is some existence of life form. So whenever we go for some kind of forest work, always in the forest, so these all aspects we need to always remember. So these mollusks are also there. So typically again from a wetland ecosystem. and then these various kinds of birds representing the aquatic ecosystem, forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, wetland ecosystem. So these are various kinds of birds, and depending upon the size of the food and depending upon the type of the food, the arrangement of the beak is always designed. So this is another huge diversity we can see as far as a mouth, a beak, and the other skills given to that particular living form to fight in the nature and also to grab their feed, because survival of the fittest means n number of prey and predators are there for one prey, but he need to escape from them, and then he need to, with struggle, he need to find his own food. Even though tiger is the strongest animal, he will try at least 18 to 20 times, then he will able to get success for one time to get his prey. So this is how nobody is having free foods, everybody need to struggle. So that survival of the fittest is one key as far as these ecosystems and biodiversity things are concerned. So if you see the different kinds of animals, different types of birds, everybody's struggle for food and utilization of technique and utilization of different body parts is being crucial to see in this particular case, and that is why everybody has a fixed role in this planet to perform. So that living form has to be performed. So this pied kingfisher, one of the rare kingfisher which stands still on the water body, didn't see any fish species, and then dives immediately into that water body and takes his prey. So this is how n number of techniques they have, but due to a time restriction we need to understand. So in the entire world, threatened species is great Indian bustard, a typical grassland bird. So one of the sanctuary reserved in Maharashtra for this bird is Nanas on the way to Solapur, and this particular bird lays only one egg in the year, and that is what the problem for conservation is, because if there is a grazing of cattle and other things, then it will be in a serious trouble. So this is symbiotic relationship that we see in the other picture, that these particular egrets are having those blood sucking insects from the skins of those buffaloes. So that bird is sitting on that elephant back, and they are having their food in terms of grass. So this nature is also showing all these learnings to us. Only thing we need to understand is red wattle lapwing, and many times a wrong concept in many areas. If this bird is giving cause, then some bad will happen, but this is not the case. Incidentally, in some cases may that happen, like some crow is giving a calls in front of your house. Sometimes it is been assumed that some guest is coming to your place, and then our national bird is peacock. So that particular is common, we can see everywhere. So this is how this diversity of birds can be seen. Then nesting of Baya beaver birds. Then also this is one of the important species known as vulture. So it is scavenger. So nature got its own mechanism to clean everything. So all dead flesh and everything being eaten by this bird, but because of one of the pharmaceutical products into veterinary medicines called as diclofenac, and then Supreme Court has banned on this thing. But by that time so many years happened, and that population becomes so less that with some efforts now population is good, because of consuming those flesh which has traces of those chemicals which we administer for cattle and buffaloes and other things to have more milk or other things or option. So when they consume this particular food, that particular flesh, so neck doping symptom they occurs and central nervous system fails, and then nobody is there in terms of the scavengers to utilize that. So this is again a different thing, and habitat of birds. So not all birds are creating the nest like this, but Baya bird is having those nests in inaccessible areas. So this is their mechanism to protect themselves from rest of the people or rest of the world. So this is nilgai. Then bison. So just few months back we have all listened that one or two bisons was enclosed into the Pune city in urban environment. Then what happened to them? Instead of having those enormous efforts, we lost that particular species. Who now that means that encroachment is there by ourselves on their territories, so they have no options to migrate. So this bison is again looking like that buffalo sometimes, but we need to clearly identify it, then we can understand. But this particular animal is also was seen in urban areas. That indicates that those corridors have been a problem coming from all that Goa, Karnataka, and Maharashtra, that means that ranges of Western Ghat. So this is how these are the cases of human wildlife conflict. So when we always go to the forest, so we got this opportunity to see these animals from very close distance, with maintaining all those rules and regulations and under supervisions of trained guides and people. So that is enormous skills to go and to have that experience. So small Indian fox, that is been observed at many areas. Then also this wild dog. So a group of 5 to 6 wild dog can create a problem to tiger. So that much power and ability this wild dog also has, and that is why in the domestic sector level also we can taking the help of this animal, as because of his loyal to his owner or whatever, we have those references. But their wild variety is that dangerous that their group can trouble a tiger, or eventually it can kill also. So this is snow leopard in the Himalayan ranges. Then this is a Royal Bengal tiger. As we can see, one more development is happening because of the changes in the biodiversity aspects or whatever. Our Ganga river is assumed to be a clean source of water, and that is in the religious way it has got enormous importance and weightage. So it is a traditional that if some poor people are not able to manage the last ritual of their beloved ones, they are not able to spend that much money also, then the traditional system is take one charcoal and keep that burning charcoal on the mouth of that body, and then that water bodies will be thrown into the river. So that is a practice. And then with the following sites as a catchment areas, these Sundarbans and other things are there where this Royal Bengal tiger species is there, and they're having this ready-made food because these bodies are flowing to that particular region. So lost their somehow instinct of hunting. So these are again some changes happening, and then that will change the biodiversity aspects of that particular area. And then the if they are finding their food, that means they are not going in search of the food in their territory. So that means those grassland animals and other things, their population will also increase, and then their food we need in more amount. So all these things are happening in a sequence. And then we can see the varieties of plants together. So here we can see the different regards: climber, creeper, brick trees, and fruits, and medicinal. As you can see, the first column, the extreme lower plant is of Solanus family, where natural steroids can be extracted. Then other thing is Kuda, that having those antiviral properties, so that it can be good for all those stomachs and abdomen diseases. And then the anti-cancer, like those Sadapulis and all there. So the pumpkins, the medicinal like those ginger, wimply, and then so something like alcohol can be created of moha. So that means the varieties of the total number of species we have just seen in the last 2 slides. So this is how the different aspect of the biodiversity we need to consider whenever we are coining this term as a biodiversity. And then after this, varieties of plants. So I worked on the species called as Ocimum santum, and my work was on to balance the level of oxygen in the inside atmosphere, and that is why in the corona situation that again helps. So we have given those antiviral kadas and everything that the Ayush Mantralaya now has given, but now I'm giving it from last 10 years. These particular things, whenever you study, you have that courage to do it for a society, then that there is a worth for your research. Otherwise, just for putting the terms as a doctor or research paper or whatever, that will not always think that which I assume. I cannot comment about everybody, but that your research should be actually utilized for the community. That is what the purpose of those research, and then you will be satisfied and happy. So that I'm doing it for various people in Pune from last 10 years, and then doing lots of those consulting things. So that gives me those opportunity to go further. So that is why only our tribal people by law, they have this right to collect this medicinal herbs, shrubs from the forest areas. So again, there is diversity in the god also. As we can say, there are 33 crores of gods are present in our maybe at least as per our boundaries of India or wherever in the world. But their association is always helpful. So many forest areas we are seeing such kind of things. So these are two, one is Ganesh and one is Maruti or Hanuman. So one represent for memory, the buddhi, and one represent for power. So buddhimatam, varishtam, both are being called. So if these two are together, then nobody is there to touch that forest. So similarly, there are different kinds of things, because always you can see all gods are in association with one of the different environmental aspects, some animals, some plants, some snakes, some mammals. So we can always see in any picture of the god, a plant or maybe a animal is attached with them. That is so that means there's close association is there. So we need to understand these diversity aspects as well. Then we come to the ecosystem diversity. So we have different kinds of forest in our country. So depending upon the rainfall, this type of the forest will decide, and then depending upon this particular type of the forest, the rainfall will decide it. And then all living forms, right from the organisms, microorganisms, vertebrates, invertebrate, plants, animals, and the medicinal properties, and all these things which basically suits to that particular type of landform. And then we are always considering that these forests are seeing for carbons and other things. They are also regulating our climatic conditions. They are also supplying various things to us in terms of medicine and various resources. So we have these different types of forests depending upon that biogeographic zones that we are going to see, which are 10. So as far as these forests are concerned, so coniferous forest in Himalayan areas by the shape of the leaves and how the snow will has to be go down. And then evergreen type of forest in the first picture on the column, and then deciduous forest, thorn forest, and mangrove forest. So depending upon the water, the vegetation type and the tree type and other things will be decided. Mangroves, again a self-sustaining ecosystem. If there is no mangroves, then Mumbai and other coastal areas locations we cannot see on the map, because they are actually protecting this shoreline from the extra pressures and currents and cyclones and flood levels arising because of the sea levels. Then another ecosystem is aquatic ecosystem, which is again broadly classified into fresh water, marine water, flowing water, still water, and then depending upon the different characteristics have, depending upon their flowing nature and stagnant nature, depending upon their salt levels, and depending upon their combination with the fresh water. So these are again distributed like this. So maybe in the marine water, so brackish water, deltas, estuaries, coastal shallows, coral reefs, deep ocean, and ponds, lakes, streams, flowing water, those waterfalls. So this is all varieties of these aquatic things. And mind well, whenever we study this environmental thing or the systems or life, the water is the only thing that can be find its ways in the entire cycle. So that means atmosphere, then lithosphere, hydrosphere, everywhere this aquatic system will take part. So that is why the life is possible, and then it is also called as universal solvent. So we require this water. So whenever there is war in the states, in the countries, in the world, they are always for the resources, not for the area. Always remember. So these war are for the resources, and that is why British ruled on us for 150 years and calling our country as a golden sparrows and other things. So actually the gold is not from our country, but these resources are given that particular term, and in exchange of those resources, whatever gold we see in our country is in that particular exchange. And that is why this particular potato is not our, cabbage is not ours, then this mirchi that we use in spice, that it is not ours, sugar technology is not ours. But with their efforts in marketing and their this thing, you can see potato in any small hutment in our country, but you don't find any vegetables. So that happens. Every caste religion, they don't have problem with potato, but they have designated to certain food types. So this is how a cunning aspect the British people have observed. And we are selling 20 rupees a kg of potato, and we are buying 20 grams of potato wafers in 20 rupees. So just see how enormous work they have did on our mind and our system. Fast. Who decided that sabudana is allowed for fast? There is no reference for that. But potato sabudana is being taken during the fast. So this is how we are not considering our nationalism. Another is grassland ecosystem. as per the water level. You can see the particular picture of this grassland ecosystem, and they are maintaining their diversity of forms of life in their particular regions. So this is how this biodiversity has been considered as far as this grassland ecosystem is concerned, and always these all ecosystems coming together hand in hand and supporting each other, because you cannot distinguish or you cannot compartmentalize these ecosystems. So the two ecosystems combining together is known as ecotone, and those animals showing these properties of both the regions. So if you Pune, you find the color of the soil is little bit mixed, but if you go towards Mulshi side to a Konkan region, the soil will going to become reddish. You going towards Satara side, the soil will become dark brown and this thing. So that means this is a kind of ecotone areas or like that. So these are variety of microorganisms, nematode, parasites, bacteria. So we all know that we have this opportunity to see in the laboratories and this thing. So this particular thing are also a part of this biodiversity that we must always listen. And that is why we need to take that mask and everything together to having, because they can find their entry nowadays. PM 2.5 is one parameters coming in those pollutants. So these microorganisms still showing your lower trend. That is why nowadays N95 mask and other things, these are coming up. So this is the case. So what I was, so see now we see these particular layers. So we see number of plants and animals. We see different ecosystems with his species diversity. We saw genetic diversity. We saw their characteristics. We saw how the different factors coming together. Then, as our country is divided into many states for administrative control, as far as this environmental consideration of our country, that distinguished features are concerned. So these Rogers and Panwar have developed this mechanism of biogeographic zones of our country, and these are 10. So Trans-Himalayan region, Himalayan region, Indian desert, semi-arid, Western Ghat, Deccan Peninsula, and so on. So this is how these biogeographic zones will decide the type of characteristics present to that ecosystem, and the type of rainfall and the vegetation present, and maybe the language, maybe the food style, maybe the transport, and maybe the other things will decide it, because according to climatic system, all these things are working, and that is why in different regions, different food products and different diseases are being evident. So this is how these biogeographic zones is there at the base of this biodiversity terms. So life supporting and self-sustaining ecosystem, that is why this biodiversity values always being considered. So in the entire world, whenever this value education is nowadays, they are giving importance. Out of those 10 prioritized values in our that entire value education system, so environment is one of that value. And here this meaning of value is what this biodiversity or ecosystem provides to us. Fishing is the second largest source of income in our country, then livestock, grazing, agriculture, religious values. So those all are according to that ecosystem, according to the area, and then we are utilizing it. Similarly, those grazing, area for fuel wood collection, fishing, preparation of cow dung cake. So all ancillary services, products, these things we are getting from this diversified aspects. So that is all we are consuming for our things, and then also for a business purpose. So they are always being called in these terms of consumptive and reproductive uses, cultural and religious uses. And why this biological diversity we have in our country has a great importance, because in various life forms, so we just see few of one here. So we just see angiosperms, flowering plants. So 17,500 in the world, 250,000. So our percentage is 7 in that particular regard. And then amphibia, we see the India to 240, and in primitive it is 123, but in the world species is about 5,150. So there our stake is 4.66%. Mammals 397 plus minus species. So there are always changes in these ecological categories, but 8 to 9% of our stakes. So in the entire world, our the rank is 7% in terms of this biological diversity, and there are some changes being happened. So here we see that rank is 14,500. Some data modification is always there with the increasing research. Amphibians 182 species and our rank is 15. Reptiles 453, and rank is 5th. So accordingly, birds, our rank is 8th or 9th. So some reports are showing 8th or 9th, but that particular rank is there. So that means our state is at 7th in the entire world as far as those biodiversity aspects are concerned. So in terms of species richness, India ranks 7th in the mammals, 9th in the birds, 5th in the reptiles, and then 7th in the amphibians. So this is how we have this enormous potential. So in the entire world, only we have the natural conditions, lion and tiger in the ecosystem. So that is why many people comes to our country and we are getting those foreign exchange in that particular terms. So India ranks 10th in the world's in the plant diversity. So again, in the United Nations declared 2010 as an International Year of Biodiversity. Today we are celebrating the Environment Day, but recently we have observed, or rather entire world is being observing the 22nd May International Day for Biological Diversity. So this is also things that we need to always understand. So that 7 to 8 rank, and then so far 91,200 species of animals and 45,500 species of plants that we have. That is why initially I said in those accessible areas only research is done. So it is all opportunity for all of us to grab those inaccessible areas. Nowadays technologies are available, projects are available, so we may do it. So as far as economic consideration of this biodiversity also we can see. So by 2005 that Manrega scheme so have given 5 million of people in terms of jobs. So those are called as green job. So maybe in the energy, that is solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, and then doing lots of recycle, reuse, and lots of environmental jobs in industries, in environmental education sector, so instructors, professors, so whatever being things as far as these environmental things are concerned. So then biodiversity hotspot. So one British biologist in 1988, he initiated these concepts, and this is because of the more diversity of these life forms and also the heavy pressures of habitat loss. So as far as our country is concerned, these are 4 biodiversity hotspots known as Himalayas, Indo-Burma, Sundalands, and Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. So there are certain benchmarks in ecological way that will see that how certain area have been called as a hotspot, what are their characteristics, and then those areas being looking for those conservational measures and supporting the entire ecosystem in terms of those gene banks. So this Himalaya biodiversity hotspot stretched over Pakistan, Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, China, and Myanmar. Indo-Burma includes northeastern India. Northeast is those 7 countries is there in our country. So except Assam and Andaman group of islands, thing is Indo-Burma. Sundalands includes Nicobar groups of islands, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and Philippines. Western Ghat and Sri Lanka includes entire Western Ghats that stretch over 5 states right from Gujarat, Maharashtra, Kerala, Karnataka, Goa, and Sri Lanka. So this is all biodiversity hotspots. So Conservation International, that is CI, adopted Mayer's hotspots in 1996. So it was finally given a fixed shape as far as research aspects are concerned. So according to CL, to qualify a certain area, certain landform, certain ecosystem as a hotspot, a region must need to satisfy 2 criteria. So it must contain at least 1,500 species of vascular plants, that is less than 0.5% of the world's total, and endemics, which is to say it must have a high percentage of plant life found nowhere else on the planet. Hotspots, in other words, is irreplicable. That means it cannot find anywhere in terms of species, terms of numbers, in terms of genetical disorders. So their diversity has been considered. It has to lost at least 70% of its original habitat. It must have 30% or less than of its original natural vegetation. In other words, it must be threatened. In 1999, this Conservation International identified 25 biodiversity hotspots, and then in 2005, with certain modifications in rules and regulations, CI published updated titles, hotspot revisited, so Earth biologically richest and most endangered terrestrial ecoregions. So finally 36, these 35 biodiversity hotspots or 36 biodiversity hotspots been finally decided. So in 2011, the last, that is forest of East Australia region, was identified as the 35th biodiversity hotspot. So I know the time importance, but let me finish with this 2-3 things with your permission. So we can see the distribution of these biodiversity hotspots in this world scenario, and then we can understand that how our Ministry of Environment and Forest, with help of State Pollution Control Board, Central Pollution Control Board, then Botanical Survey of India, Zoological Survey of India, then Geological Survey of India, and then Center for Environment Education and the Center for Science, and all other para-government mechanism used to have this entire monitoring and collecting information through research and maintaining this thing for us. So these are those only specifications that what contains in those Himalayas. So as many as 10,000 plant species, of which 3,160 are endemic. And in Indo-Burma regions, in last 12 years, large 6 mammal species have been discovered in this region. So this is how that Indo-Burma regions is specifically known for. So there are also 1,300 different bird species. So that is one unique thing to that particular area. In the Western Ghat also we'll see 40 amphibian species, 5 reptile species, 31 mammal species, 229 plant species are globally threatened species present in these areas. So these all criteria make them the hotspot. And in Sundaland, 25,000 species of vascular plants, of which 15,000 are found only in this region, and that is why this is being called as biodiversity hotspots. So this really, in those conditions, it is hot, means really it has those variety. And whenever nowadays we are saying the hot burning issues, means yes, that considerable thing is there. So here those consideration in terms of those biological diversities are present. So as per the IUC and the International Union for Conservation of Natural Thing and this thing, so according to them, as per their 2010 report, that is red data list, 94 species of mammals, 78 species of birds, 66 species of amphibians, 30 species of reptiles, 122 species of fish, 130 species of these invertebrates, and 255 species of plants in India are listed as critically endangered and other vulnerable categories as per those ecological studies which are explained in those ecosystem this thing. So then what are the problems to this biodiversity, that what is happening? So habitat loss, poaching of wildlife, man-wildlife conflicts, over-exploitation, fire, urbanization, and natural calamities. So here I have mentioned both the factors for you. So how this ecosystem is getting problem, and finally that is reflect on the entire biodiversity of the area. So these human factors are there which need to be worried, natural factors are there, so that those ecological succession, that means nature is trying to recover those situations, so they have that mechanism. But as far as those human induced factors are concerned, and that is what the real issues as far as these biodiversity conservations are there. So this ecosystem degradation, these are happening in last many years, and lots of efforts being taken that how we can save our ecosystem, that hardly only 23-25% of forest is left, that we need to have 33% of forest if we see the total ecological classification of this different landscape that we have in our country in comparison to our total area. So these are certain ways in situ conservation. So that means in terms of national parks and sanctuaries, so where everything is protected, no external pressure, no external activities being allowed, and forest department has entire control on it. So Project Tiger, Project Elephant, Project Rhino. We have these particular things that are there. So only 4.5% of our entire country's area is under protection status in terms of those maybe 102-3 national parks and 533 wildlife sanctuaries, and then there's certain conservational zones and other things that we'll see. So that is entire control inside the natural own condition, open Ex-situ conservation is controlled approach outside their natural habitat, so it is been carefully controlled with the situations, and that is why this artificial breeding and other exercise and zoological parks, everything being considered into this. So beach bachao andolan and all those things. So we must have understood that we just lost in last week Sundar Lalji Bahuguna, who was famous activist as far as environmental activism is concerned in those Tehri Garhwal area. I personally met him before say 15 years, and he was explaining how he done entire thing, but still what are the problems being faced by those people in this area. So these many many people, they have contributed to save this biodiversity. So Beach Bachao Andolan, these things are one of them. So Narmada Bachao Andolan is also headed by Megha Patkar, and there are many ways through which these biodiversity conservation measures should be adopted. So this in situ and ex situ conservations. So in Pune we have those Katral Zoological Park, that is perfect example of this ex situ kind of conservation. So protected area network, that means in which human occupation or at least the exploitation of resources is limited. The definition that has been widely accepted across the regional and global frameworks has been provided by the International Union of Conservation for Nature, IUCN, and categorize those guidelines which comes under those protected areas. Just a minute. Wildlife sanctuaries and national parks under that protected areas network, so that we have seen 101 national parks. So 40,000 odd square kilometers area is under that, 553 wildlife sanctuaries, so 119 square kilometer area under that, 163 community reserves, 86 national conservation reserves. So in totality 1,65,012.59 square kilometer area is under that protection status. And the need for an integrated protected areas, so wildlife corridors, protection of appropriate habitat and adequate research, and that is continuous research, not research will be restricted to 9 to 5, so 24-hour research attitude and habitat should be there. So how can we do it? First of all, can we do it? So yes, we can do it. So for that purpose, you can be a dedicated environmentalist, or simply you can save one glass of water, don't throw waste outside, don't spit outside. Only if you do that thing also, then use those products which have less packing material, indigenous things, fruits and other vegetables and other things that you may think, and be a part of any NGO, be a part of any pressure group or any organizations or those people groups which are making lots of efforts to saving these ecosystems. And either ways you will support the cause. So that is why I'm always saying there is no requirement of money is required. You need to give your time, so that is enough that you are considering on your part to the contribution of saving this ecosystem, whatever be your profession. Because ultimately, if there are benefits, we are going to the benefits, but if there is loss, yes, we are only to suffer those kinds of loss. So this is how we see this particular biological aspects and biological diversity. So in your stipulated time period, I try to squeeze entire thing together. So thank you all of you for giving this opportunity, that at least we can share whatever we know each other. So thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Seth. Does the audience have any questions for Dr. Seth?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please ask.
सर, माझा क्वेश्चन असा आहे, लॉकडाऊन पिरियड मध्ये नॉर्मली जे रिव्हर्स आहेत, गोदावरी, यमुना, गंगा, हे स्वतःहून क्लीन झाले. आणि दुसरी गोष्ट आहे की जे फ्लावर्स आहेत, फ्लावर फाउंडेशन आहे, प्लांट फाउंडेशन आहे, तिथे आधी फ्लावर्स म्हणजे इतके प्रमाणात नव्हते, पण लॉकडाऊन पिरियड आला ते स्वतःहून फ्लावरिंग सगळं कसं काय झालं सर?
असं असतं की जसं मगाशी मी म्हटलं, दोन सिस्टीम मी दाखवल्या, ह्युमन सिस्टीम आणि नॅचरल सिस्टीम. तर नेचरच्या इकोसिस्टीमच्या सर्व्हिसेस मध्ये एक टॉपिक असतो किंवा एक कन्सेप्ट किंवा एक गोष्ट होते, त्याला म्हणायचं इकॉलॉजिकल सक्सेशन. म्हणजे नेचर स्वतःहून काही रिक्लेमेशन मेजर घेतो. म्हणजे समजा एखादा एरिया पूर्वी खूप डेन्सली फॉरेस्टने युक्त होता आणि काही कारणामुळे ते फॉरेस्ट कापावं लागलं, क्लिअर करावं लागलं, तर तिथे मग नेचर स्वतः सुरुवात करतो काही ग्रास स्पेसिस पासून, मग हळूहळू हर्ब, श्रब आणि असं करत करत ते सिस्टीम परत 100% होईल की नाही याची हे नसते, कारण आपलं ह्युमन प्रेशर तिथे नको असतं. जेव्हा आता तुम्ही हा एक्झॅक्टली रिव्हर संबंधी म्हणताय की ह्या लॉकडाऊनच्या पिरियडमध्ये खूपशे असे प्रश्न आपल्याला आले की जसं अनेक वेळेला आम्ही पोल्युशन स्टडीज पण केले, तर ते इमिशन गॅसेस पण आपोआप कमी झाले. त्याच्यानंतर जे काही तुमच्या रिव्हर सिस्टीम मध्ये किंवा नॅचरल सिस्टीम मध्ये इंडस्ट्री, डोमेस्टिक सेक्टर, कमर्शियल सेक्टर मधनं येणारा इन्फ्लुएन्स वगैरे ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी होत्या, तर त्यांचं प्रमाण कमी झालं. त्याच्यामध्ये जे केमिकल कॉन्स्टिट्युएंट्स असतात त्यांचं जे डोसेस पॅटर्न्स असतात ते कमी झाले आणि त्यामुळे मग त्या पर्टिक्युलर रिव्हर इकोसिस्टीम जी आहे आपल्या ऍक्वेटिक इकोसिस्टीम मधली, तर त्याला स्वतःहून ऍक्वेटिक इकोसिस्टीम संबंधी जे काही थोडं करता आलं ते आलं आणि त्यामुळे जे नॅचरल काही फ्लॉवर्स आणि इतर व्हेजिटेशन आपण बघतो. आता तुम्हाला एक कंडिशन सांगतो की मी राहतो इथे औंधला, माझ्या समोरच नदी आहे, तर दरवर्षी आतापर्यंत ती नदी साफ व्हायची, पण आता ह्या कोरोना याच्यामुळे बजेट अलोकेशन असेल किंवा अजून काही गोष्ट असेल, पण त्याच्यामुळे अजून ते वॉटर हायसिन त्या सगळ्या रिव्हर बेडवर जमा झालेलं आहे. पण लक्षात घ्या ते इंडिकेशन आहे पोल्युशनचं. ती एक ऑस्ट्रेलियन व्हरायटी आहे जी इंडिकेटर ऑफ पोल्युशन स्पेसिस आहे आणि ती अख्ख्या रिव्हर बेडवर एकदम लश ग्रीन लॉन असावं तसं आता कंडिशन आहे आणि त्याचा इम्पॅक्ट म्हणून सध्या एरियामध्ये इन्सेक्ट आणि मॉस्किटोज आणि ह्या सगळ्या झाल्यात. पण नेचर जर तुम्ही वॉटर क्वालिटी बघायला गेलात आता, तर ती मागच्या वर्षीला, कारण आपला पर्यावरण विभाग जो आहे पुणे म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशनचा, तो दरवर्षी एक रिपोर्ट इट इज पब्लिशिंग दॅट इज नोन एज ESR, एन्व्हायरमेंटल स्टेटस रिपोर्ट. तर पुणे म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशनच्या एरिया पुरता इच अँड एव्हरी ऍस्पेक्ट ऑफ एन्व्हायरमेंट ते कव्हर करतात. तर मागच्या वर्षी, या वर्षी आणि त्याच्या आधीच्या वर्षी आपण जर वॉटर लेवलचे मॉनिटरिंग रिझल्ट तपासले तर आपल्याला या गोष्टींची कल्पना येऊन जाते.
सर, वन मोर क्वेश्चन.
येस
सर, जे आपलं नॉर्मली आता जे स्मार्ट सिटीज आहेत, मुंबई, पुणे, नागपूर सगळे आहेत, पण ते स्मार्ट सिटीज जे आहेत ते एन्व्हायरमेंटला हार्म करून बनतात. फॉर एक्झाम्पल झाडांना कापलं जातं, मग कॉन्क्रीटच्या बिल्डिंग बनतात, जर दिल्लीमध्ये भरपूर आहे. दुसरं असं की आता लक्षद्वीपचं एक आहे, लक्षद्वीप इज नोन ॲज अ बायोडायव्हर्सिटी अँड नॅचरल कल्चर. पण आता तिकडचं असं म्हणजे अँबॅसेडरचं असं म्हणणं आहे की मला लक्षद्वीपला स्मार्ट सिटी बनवायचं आहे, पण स्मार्ट सिटी वर्थ इट आहे का एन्व्हायरमेंटला हार्म करून?
मुळात स्मार्ट सिटी बनवण्या इतपत आपण स्मार्ट आहोत का, आणि स्मार्ट ह्या शब्दाचा अर्थ आपण सगळ्यांनी लक्षात घेतला आहे का? मुळात इकॉनॉमिक डेव्हलपमेंट म्हणजे साइन ऑफ इंडिकेशन ऑफ डेव्हलपमेंट किंवा प्रोग्रेस आहे का? ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टींचा विचार आपल्याला करायला पाहिजे. ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी लो कॉस्ट वापरून किंवा एन्व्हायरमेंटल फ्रेंडली पद्धतीनेही करता येऊ शकतात का? तर येस, करता येऊ शकतात. पण मग फंड स्पेंड कसे होणार? फंड स्पेंड व्हायला पाहिजेत, त्याच्यामुळे ते वेगळ्या स्मार्ट पद्धतीने ते आपण स्पेंड करतो आहे आणि इकोसिटी बनवायचा प्रयत्न करतो आहे. पण आपण एखाद्या सिटीचं, एखाद्या एरियाचं जर लोकल कन्सिडरेशन किंवा क्लायमॅटिक पॅटर्न्स आणि ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी लक्षात घेतल्या तर काही थोड्या गोष्टींची पूर्तता करून आपल्याला ह्या सिटी स्मार्ट करता येऊ शकतात. कारण आता आपण हे सगळं जे बघतोय कॉन्क्रीट बॅकग्राऊंड आणि जे सगळं, तर ऍक्च्युअली इट इज कंडक्टर ऑफ हीट आणि त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला प्लेन जमीन कुठे मिळत नाही, पाणी त्याच्यामध्ये सीप होईल असं. त्याच्यामुळे मग ग्राउंड वॉटरमध्ये आपल्याला एक्स्ट्रा ॲक्विफर रिचार्ज होत नाही आणि मग ग्राउंड वॉटरला प्रॉब्लेम येतोय. तीच गोष्ट आपण आपल्या मुलांच्या बाबतीत करतो आहे की 3-4-5 महिन्याचं मुलगा झालं की त्याला ते बूट देतोय, चिवचिव चिवचिव करणार आहे, पण त्याला मातीत जाऊन देत नाही, कारण ह्या सगळ्याच्या इम्युनिटीच्या अँटीजेन्स आणि हे सगळे मातीत असतात. ह्या एवढ्या साध्या साध्या गोष्टी आहेत, पण आपण धावतोय कशाच्या मागे आणि कशाला स्मार्ट म्हणतोय, हा एक थोडासा प्रश्न त्याच्यामध्ये आहे. पण चांगल्या इको पद्धतीने करता येऊ शकतं का? तर आन्सर इज येस.
थँक्यू सर.
कुणीतरी चॅटबॉक्स मध्ये काही विचारलंय, सो तुम्ही मोठ्याने विचारलं तर सगळ्यांना कळेल.
Sir, I want to ask one question. I read somewhere that some island like Maldives will go because of global warming after some 20 years. Is it going to happen in future because of global warming and all?
हा आता ग्लोबल वॉर्मिंगचा जेव्हा इश्यू आहे आणि जो आपला मॉनिटरी प्रोटोकॉल आणि कायटो प्रोटोकॉल वगैरे ह्या गोष्टी आपण केलेल्या आहेत, ज्याच्यामध्ये आपण एक ट्रिटी साईन केलेली आहे वगैरे वगैरे, त्याच्यामध्ये डेव्हलपिंग कंट्रीज आणि अंडर डेव्हलपिंग कंट्रीज असा एक प्रश्न येतो की ते लोक जास्त रिसोर्सेस वापरतात, दे आर मोर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर दोज कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन, आणि मग ते कार्बन ट्रेडिंग आणि कार्बन फुटप्रिंट असे काही संकल्पना त्याच्यात आल्या. आणि त्याच्या अंडर आता काय झालं की इंडिया सारखे जे डेव्हलपमेंट कंट्रीज आहेत तर त्यांना जे काही वेगवेगळे इश्यूज आहेत तर त्यासाठी जे अब्रॉड कंट्रीज मधले जे एस्टॅब्लिशमेंट्स आहेत, जे ऑर्गनायझेशन्स आहेत, जे इंडस्ट्रीज आहेत, तर ते पे अँड पोल्यूट म्हणजे त्याचा थोडासा अर्थ असा होतो, तर ते जास्त प्रमाणात कार्बन इमिशन करतायत तर त्याचे कॅल्क्युलेशन करून तो फंड हा आपल्याला देत आहेत आपल्या इंडियाच्या काही प्रॉब्लेमच्या याच्यासाठी. आणि मग आपण त्या फॉरेन एक्सचेंजच्या नावाखाली अनेक तसल्या उद्योगांना आपल्या इथे परमिशन देतोय की जे आपलेच रिसोर्स वापरून, आपलेच इकोसिस्टीम वापरून आपल्या इथे ते सगळं इमिशन्स करतायत. तर त्याप्रमाणे हे सगळं वापरून जे काही प्रेडिक्शन्स केलेले आहेत की किती टेम्परेचर वाढायला पाहिजे आणि किती टेम्परेचर ऍक्च्युअली वाढतंय तर ते प्रमाणापेक्षा जास्त वाढतंय. त्याच्यामुळे आपल्या भारतामध्ये ऍसिड रेन आणि हे ग्लोबल वॉर्मिंगमुळे जसं तुम्ही मालदीवचं उदाहरण देता आहात तर तशा काही होण्याच्या शक्यता ह्या आपल्या मिनिस्ट्री आणि रिसर्च यांनी करून जरूर केलेल्या आहेत. आणि तसं होण्याचा चान्स असू शकतो का, तर येस.
Sir, I have a question.
Please.
You said that you worked on the project of the species naming Osmium sanctum.
Yeah.
What is the common name of that, and what was the project all about?
It is our black variety of tulsi. Because
Sorry?
Black variety of tulsi. There are many names keep on changing because as far as Botanical Survey of India, so in the journey of those ecological studies or biological studies, so there are different names given to the same species as per the research. So Osmium sanctum was earlier name, now they may be terming it as Osmium graticissum or something. But for our common understanding, the black variety of tulsi in front of our house, in the backyard, in the terrace or wherever.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Nowadays, we see farmers are turning towards cultivation of exotic fruits and vegetables,
Yes.
which are actually not indigenous to us or our area. They are
Correct.
making certain modifications using some chemicals, fertilizers, and they are trying to cultivate them. So does that affect the natural ecosystem or biodiversity of a particular area?
Yes. So your question is very correct. When we are always doing those projects called as eco restorations, right? So a particular landform, particular area is confined to those particular species, type of conditions and everything. So really our ecosystem don't want that intrusion, right? And whenever we are trying to do so, that is clear cut indication to that particular landform, that particular area. And nowadays this is one fashion or boom to have those farmhouses in somewhere other areas close to forest, in the hillocks or any river bed or whatever the areas. Everybody's mind in that thought process or having that particular farmhouse is different. So many people, they try to make it more attractive with a business concept in their mind, and then they try to introduce various constructional measures which are not really required to that system, then various ornamental plants and various other things which are not really suiting to that particular thing. So in the environment there is migration and there is some route and paths and access for various living form to move along. So when there is this collision, this interaction, it has definitely impact to that particular area. So for that reason, if you do that study 3, 4, 5 years down the line in different seasons, then very positively and appropriately, correctly, you can make out those ecological changes because of these intrusions to that particular area. So always you have that farmhouse, but try to regenerate the local species, local grass, local plant species to that particular area. That will help you, and then you can have that small hutment. You go there and spend your good time so far.
Sir, I have one more question. In these recent 2 years, we have seen two great fires, one which occurred in Australia and the other was in the Amazon. which had a huge impact on the natural life, the plant species. So how does that affect the ecosystem? Do the others get affected by it?
Yes, first of all, in our country, those kinds of temperate forests are not there. So those forest fires are resulting upon, so in a natural fact only, if certain there is fight in animals or certain animals moves fast from that region. So with their collision with that grass species or two grass species also is a reason for that forest fire. That is not in case of ours. Whatever forest fires in our country is there is because of a deliberate actions of forest fire made by the local forest or local farmers or other people, because they have that strong concept in their mind that if they burn forest this year, they have a good opportunities of grass and other things for the next cycle to come. But any kind of forest, maybe it is a deliberate fire, maybe it is a natural fire, or maybe it is a certain specified reason fire, that will definitely affect ecosystem, because that will tend the different living forms to migrate from that species, migrate from that area. So maybe vertebrate, invertebrate, birds, mammals, then your reptiles, everybody need to change their landscape. They need to move from that area and need to shift to the other areas. As you people also know, these living forms having their particular territory, having their particular area, so it is really hard for them to shift from that area to other area and then acclimatize with the new conditions there, even though it is the same kind of ecosystem, right? So that is one fact. Another fact is, in that forest fire, lots of these critically important plants, animals, birds, reptiles, medicinal plants, grass, they used to burn completely. So that cycle is gone. So whatever we use for the pollution, for maybe a dry grass, dry seed, or any other thing on which those birds will sit and they will move everywhere because of those pollination by water, then by wind. So these all will get affected, and then that will be a serious problem to that ecosystem as well. And again, there will be lots of time required for those ecological succession, because again, human intrusion is there for the next cycle to come. So this is how it is a enormous issue as far as conserving those biological diversities there.
May I ask one question, sir?
Yes, sir, please.
Recently we got the news that the recent break of large area of Antarctic shelf, right? And did that happen sooner than we were expecting? And what could be the impact? Is it an alarm for us that we are going to destroy soon? And as a common person or common people, what we can do for it? I mean,
your initial part of the question I was not able to hear properly. Please loudly.
Recently, we came across the news that there is a Antarctica shelf get breakdown, right? And did that happen sooner that we were expecting? And what could be the impact of it? And is it an alarm for us by nature that human species is going to destroy soon?
Yes, as far as the natural, if you study the geographical aspects altogether, then those plate tectonic theories and shifting of those plates and everything are there. So it is happening with that particular rate. And always that we can't predict, but the nature has prediction that how much year those recycle will start. So with those natural movements, yes, there are evidences that shifting of these plates and these entire regions. So it is alarming situations for all of us. Yes, definitely alarming situations to all of us, because of that there will be changes in the form of maybe an earthquake, maybe a volcanoes, or maybe certain other kinds of things, maybe rise in the temperature, maybe the heavy rainfalls, or maybe the drought conditions and other like. Also, there is certain intrusions of maybe biological cases also, as this we can understanding the example of this coronavirus. So anything can be happen, because we cannot predict how nature is trying to restore all these things together. So yes, it is a definitely alarming situations, as global warming, those rise in temperature always told us that if it is continues in the same order, there will be a heavy rainfall and flood and everything. So that is one way. And if you also able to take references from many of these traditional references from religious background, So there also they are terming something as a Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, Kali Yug, and all those things aspect. So definitely, if we try to combine these 2-3 different studies together, these approaches together, then we'll definitely reach into that conclusion that yes, the situation is alarming for all of us. If we not do it properly, then we may need to suffer, and these are various indicators that we are observing.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, can you please guide us and our students like how we can take small steps, small measures to preserve and conserve our ecosystem? Like you said, even if we save 1 glass of water, then we are contributing towards preserving or saving our ecosystem. So can you please highlight some such small steps that at our level we can take to preserve and maintain our ecosystem biodiversity?
Yes. So first, let me know that your faculty is pharmacy, no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as far as the entire discussion from last 1.5 hours, so the exactly important discussion from my point of view is this particular question, that how we can go about with it. As I am going to various pharmacy colleges, near about 30 pharmacy colleges, I am conducting this particular subject, and other are some management colleges, art colleges, commerce colleges, your engineering, hotel management colleges, and all together. So you people have NSS in your college? So my question, I'm not cross questioning, but what you do as a NSS camp or this thing?
Sir, we
This is
just
a
have
very-
begun with our.
This is our very first year. And
Okay.
since they have been admitted, the physical presence has not been there in the college. It's only virtual.
No, not required. So I'm just saying this thing because, say, many times I am used to, because I was also heading this NSS unit for a state, and I was that coordinator for university and this thing. But being into the pharmacy field, you may go for the certain hours of field work. Your student need to do certain hours of field work, and those 10 days residential camp and all those. Now it is a common agenda that everybody will take those brooms in their hands and they try to clean the streets or areas or something like that. But you are from pharmacy wings, and I always ask pharmacy students, try to collect soil sample, try to collect water sample from that area of a certain village you have selected or adopted. Do those analysis in the labs and tell them that this is the problem with your soil, because those analysis are easily being done in your labs. So not everybody is required to have those swachhata and saf safai everywhere, not required. Then also you try to collect some of the species of, say, mosquitoes or some insects which are responsible for causing various diseases. So bring those mosquitoes, test under a microscope in your lab. So that will be enormous contribution from a pharmacy field to those needy people in some rural area or urban area. So these kinds of meaningful work you do because that opportunity you people have. So that is, I am saying, through your administrative system or your protocol. Another way that, as I am saying here, single glass of water you save, that is also one way to do this. Also on your college basis, if you try to segregate the waste paper at one place, at the end of year, you may segregate that particular quantity of paper, give it to the handmade paper recycling unit there is in this agricultural college campus of Pune. In exchange of that, you will get some recycled paper that you will utilize for invitations of your gatherings and programs and other things, this and that. Then also give your students a different projects on their campus basis, that somebody will only collect or do the energy audit, somebody will only collect the information about biodiversity, somebody will only collect the information about temperature, somebody will only collect the information about the good practices in the college premises as far as eco-friendly practices are concerned. Then somebody will keep track on the current researches and trends coming into the pharmacy field and other things. So this is how that will be automatically work will be done for your this environmental or rather green audit for your NAC purpose, because 7th chapter where you have to complete your environmental audit, and I am doing it for various pharmacy colleges. So those everything you can do in your campus. So accordingly you see how the waste will be managed, from your lab to lab, administrative area, classroom area, and then you can do those waste management audits also. So simple things to understand, and then really you want to do something for the community, come to me. I will take you to some areas and we'll do it. We'll go
Yes,
to
sir, definitely.
we'll go to the forest areas. We'll go to the tribal areas, because I'm working with those tribal from many years, and very proudly I can say they are sharing me various traditional and indigenous medicines with me. So that also I will share it with you. So for that reason, we go to that particular areas for 1 day, 2 days, something like that. If you want that NSS camp also, I will provide facility to stay for 10 days. You carry out your camp and do some meaningful work. Your students having the subject called as pharmacognosy should be able to identify at least all vegetables available in the market. Or at least they should be able to identify 10 plants which they are using for the preparation of drugs. Now, how many students present here can able to identify a Shankapushpi plant, or have they seen that Shankapushpi plant anywhere? I'm just giving you examples. So this is how we can do this thing. For these things, not enormous funds are required. So that is one sustainable approach to work for the environmental thing.
Thank you, sir.
Very true, sir. So I would like to add from my side that we can follow 3 R's.
Right.
One is reduce, recycle, right? And third is
Reuse.
reuse. Right? Recycle and reuse.
Yeah. So from these 3 things, you may create one of the best practices out of these 3. Put it through a scientific way, which will be utilized by your campus or by you people for that green audit for the NAC purpose. So one aspect is good practices.
Hello.
Yes, any more questions?
I'm here to present a vote of thanks.
Okay.
I was brought up to believe that nature plays vital role in our hasty world. I acknowledge the fact, as truly stated by Dr. Sheth, that we have a diverse country and we need to make certain changes to keep up with the ecosystem, to preserve our environment, and for conservation of biodiversity. As it is said, united we stand and divided we fall. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. So we must find time to thank the people who make a difference in our lives. I would now propose a vote of thanks. It gives me immense pleasure to deliver our gratitude to one and all present here. Thank you so much, the authorities of Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapeeth, Pune. Special thanks and greetings to our campus director, Dr. Pranati Tilak Madam. Our honorable guest, Dr. Swapnil Sheth, a renowned environmentalist, has blessed us with his appealing insight on this Environment Day. Also, I would like to thank our beloved principals, to all the worthy teaching and administrative staff of LTIP Kharghar and LTIPS Pune. And thank you, my dear friends, for being such a patient listeners. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Let's end the meeting now. Thank you very much. It was
Thank
nice
you.
to have you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.